What's going on, guys? This is the third podcast from Fantasy Football Trap Play. Of course, I am your host, Mike Trapasso. On today's agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about the Thursday night football game, tonight's game being Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Atlanta Falcons. And then I'm going to be joined by a guest, Nick Halper, and we're going to talk a little bit about his Dallas Cowboys. So without further ado, let's get into the first topic. And according to Zach Caros of SB Nation, Julio Jones has caught for 313 receiving yards in his past two games, not counting his last one where Julio was shut down. Now, this may come as a surprise with Julio Jones being the 6'4" monster target that he is. I still wouldn't overreact to this from a fantasy standpoint. Julio Jones is still, in my opinion, the top wide receiver in the league right now in terms of fantasy. One could argue Odell Beckham, one could argue Antonio Brown, but there's problems with both of those offenses that are not apparent with the Atlanta Falcons. So, fire Julio Jones up as a wide receiver one going forward, especially in tonight's game against a quite porous secondary over there in Tampa Bay. And there's some running back issues over there, so expect a high scoring, a lot of throwing. Keep an eye out for Mike Evans as well, the other receiver on that side. So now we're joined by Nick Halper, who is a Dallas Cowboy fan. Let's get that out of the way. But Nick, just wanted to ask you, in terms of fantasy, what do you make of this statement by Colin Cowherd of ESPN? The Cowboys don't need Dez Bryant.
I think Colin Cowherd has seen a lot of football over the years that he's been covering sports, and I think he understands that the Cowboys were able to win a lot of football games without Dez Bryant on the football field. I know that there's a big thing about chemistry that a lot of people talk about and not messing that up. So I'm not really sure what kind of chemistry issues there have been, because they were 12-4 with Dez playing well, and I think Dez understands that this could be the same kind of scenario. I'm not really sure what Colin Cowherd sees in the near future, but I know that, Michael, as you mentioned, you're going to need a Julio Jones to win you the big games. You're going to need a Dez Bryant to win you the big games. So you might want to make sure you keep that guy in your back pocket and save him for the big-time moments.
Nick, really quickly, Ezekiel Elliott, running back one going forward, is he top five? Where do you see him?
I mean, I think Ezekiel Elliott is obviously a top running back for fantasy. I hate to admit it, but my boy Alex was right. You know, they kind of been sticking with him, and again, circumstances were a little different at the beginning of the year, but he's shown a lot of patience. He's shown a lot of guts. I just wish that sometimes he would go out of bounds or juke a guy a little bit instead of just trying to truck him over. But again, he's a young running back. He'll understand what he's doing from here on out, and there's a lot of success going forward.
Nick, thank you so much for joining the podcast. Student by day, Cowboy fan by night. That will be the final podcast from Fantasy Football Trap Play, and I will leave you guys with a Julio Jones touchdown.
Got to get to the 43. Pocket collapsing, Ryan rolling, looking, just going to throw it deep for Jones, double coverage. Oh!